Hello everybody, Raven Rant here, and coming at you with another update video. So let's get the typical stuff out of the way. Thank you so much for coming in to watch. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Subscriptions really help. I've actually been getting a lot more subscribers lately, probably because of that extra credits response video I did. It's been a while since I did one of those, and I think a lot of people were excited to see it. So really helps out the channel that y'all subscribe. I would really appreciate it. We're getting real close to 21,000 subs. It's awesome, and we're getting there much quicker than I would have expected, so that's really cool. Don't forget to comment on the video. I do always read the comments, even if I don't always reply, and leave a like on the video. If you leave a like, that really just helps me out and lets me know that you're interested. Thank y'all so much. Let's get on to the video. So, thoughts so far on the testing grounds, because if y'all didn't know yet, For Honor has released the testing grounds where they've been testing out some reworks to Conqueror and Shaolin. What are my thoughts? Okay, so with Shaolin, I didn't really think about him needing a rework that badly. I would have thought Nucia would be first on that chopping block, but okay, Shaolin. And based on what they did with him, I don't mind it too much. In fact, some of the things that he does now, kind of like, yeah, that makes sense that he would be able to do that. Like, for example, going into a key attack or key stance, and then being able to move off of that into a leg sweep. I never understood the leg sweep that Shaolin had. I always felt like that's a technique that he very rarely uses and very rarely has any sort of follow-up that works, because when you do the leg sweep, you can only get a guaranteed light, which I'm kind of like, I don't know. I feel like he should have a bit more than that, and they did add more for that. And I think that they're taking more advantage of that key stance, which I think is a much better idea for Shaolin. So I think it's pretty good. A little strong, maybe, but then again, I'm not that great a player, so maybe I'm just looking at it from that perspective. As for Conk, I'll admit I'm not a big fan of it. Not saying that he doesn't need a rework. I mean, he definitely could use a few touch-ups, but the idea that he can cancel out his attacks now like any other hero, I guess it doesn't really break anything for me. I'll admit it seems a little physically impossible that he can do this wind up with the flail and then just, stop that, because you're stopping momentum that can't be stopped there, right? Also, there's the fact that I'm just so used to him feinting his attacks into shield bashes. So constantly I'd be doing an attack and hitting the wrong button to cancel out the attack, and I just end up either letting my attack fly or missing entirely and getting pasted. So it's me having to relearn something that I probably already knew, I'm having to apply my method of fighting with other heroes to Conqueror, who I always had a different means of fighting with. So it's one of those things that I have to get used to. Do I dislike it? Not necessarily. It just means I got to get used to it. So my personal thoughts are Shaolin, definitely needed, and I like where it's going. Conqueror, I could skip it. It's not bad, but not great either. So that's my stance on that. If you want to hear more people talk about that in better ways, I would say look at Eskimo, Jondelier, Slanderous. They're people who know that kind of stuff better. But for me, that's my 2 cents. So some of y'all were pretty frustrated to hear that For Honor and Glory was on hiatus, but I got some good news for you. For Honor and Glory is back in production. I fixed the problem, and I will have a new chapter out as soon as possible. I just need to take some time to rewrite out the story again. So just takes a little bit of time. Speaking of stories, Revna, the Berserker story, is getting worked on. I should have that out hopefully sometime soon, maybe this week. We'll see what happens. I just need to... Doing the Legend series takes some time and a lot of patience for me, because I'm basically taking stories that I created in my head, putting them on paper, and making them sound coherent, which is a little funky, it's a little weird, but I'll get it worked out. I'll figure something out. Now, before I move on to other stuff besides For Honor, I should say, the other day, I think I had the funniest experience in any For Honor match. I wish I'd been recording this, because it was so funny. We were playing against these pretty toxic players, just ganking whenever they had the chance, using some pretty cheap moves, and we had this Raider, who anytime that we were ganking, he would just start emote spamming before they'd even killed me. Then he'd do an attack, emote spam some more when it hit, just very toxic. He'd run around the map, emote spam people to come fight him, he'd run away from them so that they'd get close to a ledge, he'd emote spam again, and then he'd just throw them over the ledge and emote spam while they died. Very toxic person. So anyway, me and a Griffin, I was playing, I think, I was either a Black Prior or I was a Nobushi. I can't remember which one. But anyway, we were chasing him down. He was running away because we had him outnumbered 2-1. He ran into Zone B. because this was that castle map, the shard. He runs down into Zone B, and suddenly we have him cornered. And right as we're about to kill him, we've got him cornered, we're going to take him down, he immediately quits the game. Right there, immediately pulls out, right as we're about to get in the killing blow. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Now you could say, oh, maybe his connection went out. No, it didn't. That was way too well timed. He just yeeted himself out of the game as soon as he thought, oh crap, I'm gonna die. You can dish it out, you can't take it. One of those moments. And that was probably one of the funniest things that's ever happened in For Honor. This absolute toxic moron, playing Raider, spamming Raider's moves and emote spamming, gets cornered by the two people, well, at least two of the people that he'd been being toxic to, and as soon as comeuppance is coming, yeets himself out of the game. And the entire team was furious at him. We know this because when he left, we suddenly turned the match around, and they were butthurt. I remember getting a few messages, only two, because I think there were only two people on PS4, saying, you won because we lost a teammate. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. Anyway, that's it for Honor. Let's move on to some other stuff. So, Elden Ring. How am I doing on Elden Ring since I'm playing that again? Well, after many tries, I finally beat Margit the Fellowman in Elden Ring, the very first boss. I finally beat him. I'm finally done with that guy. Thank goodness. I know some of y'all are probably thinking, wow, it really took you that many tries and that long to beat Margit. I mean, I've already beaten the game, and I'm playing through a second time. Like, one of those things. It's like, you got to realize I'm not a Dark Souls, Bloodborne kind of person. I don't know those games as well. I haven't really played those. So the fact that I'm even going this far into Elden Ring, that I'm trying so hard to beat the first boss, is a testament to how much I'm enjoying the game. Normally, I would have just put the controller down and said, this game isn't for me. But no, I wanted to keep trying. I wanted to keep fighting him. I wanted to try to beat him. Finally, I beat the guy, and I'm like, yes, I did it. I beat this guy. And so now I'm moving on to the next phase and getting used to that. Actually, I went back into the phase previously, like the opening phase, and I've been exploring a little bit more to try to get more information about the world and try to gain more gear, gain more knowledge, stuff like that. So I'm just taking my time with it. But the fact that I finally beat that first boss was awesome. And I thought that he was a really hard boss. Apparently, Lark and I looked it up. Apparently, other people, even Dark Souls veterans, were saying this guy was pretty tough. But if he was tough, I can't wait to see how the other bosses are. Anyway, so on to other things. Dead by Daylight analysis. Based on the Jake one, the one that I did on Jake Park, a lot of people aren't watching those, but I'm still going to do them because I like it. And because not a lot of people are watching them, I'm going to break convention a little bit. And instead of doing the nurse as the next killer that I talk about, I'm going to do the Onryo, or Sadako, next. The reason why is because I actually have watched the Ringu movies, like not the Ring, the Ringu movies, the original Ring, the Japanese version. And I've also watched The Grudge and Ju-On the Grudge. I've watched all those movies about the Onryo, and I have some stuff to talk about there. That'd be actually a lot of fun to discuss. I love her character. I love what they've done with her. I want to talk about that a little bit. So that is what we will be planning to do. Now, on to some more personal stuff. Let's go. We're done with the game discussions. We're done with the channel updates. Let's talk about some personal stuff. So as y'all know from my last update video, I've been dealing with my depression, dealing with a lot of difficulty, but I've been thinking about where to go next, like what I plan to do, because right now I'm giving serious consideration to quitting my job, to finding a new job. I don't want to go back into the food industry. I just don't feel like that's where I need to be. So I've been thinking about it, praying about it, discussing it with friends and church members and family. And I'm giving serious consideration to going into seminary. And if you don't know what seminary is, think of it kind of like a preacher's college. Essentially, you go into seminary and then come out a minister or missionary or pastor, stuff like that. It's basically a school that teaches you how to be a minister for God. You know, that's essentially what it is. Now, why would I go seminary? Am I planning on becoming a pastor? Not necessarily. I'm thinking about going in so that I can become a missionary, because I'm thinking about the things that I'm good at, the things that I enjoy. I enjoy teaching and educating, something that I really like. I have a passion for Asian culture. Ever since I was young, I've always had a very big interest in it, and it only grew stronger when I dated a young lady from Japan and a lady from Korea and a lady from China. as I dated these girls, they opened my eyes to their culture and their language and the stuff about it, and I've always had a love for it. Even when we broke off the relationships, I still was in love with their culture. And I also have a passion for the gospel. You know, I'm a very strong Christian. I have a very strong faith with my God. So with those three things combined, teaching, passion for Asian culture, and passion for the gospel, maybe I'm meant to be a missionary in Asia. That's the thought that I've had. And there is a high need for Christianity in Japan. I think that the current Christian population over in Japan is, I think, 3 or 4%. Maybe even lower than that. It's not a very high percentage. And it's not because they don't like Christianity. It's because many of them don't see the necessity of it. One of the things that I've learned as I've studied Japan and Christian relationship is Japan is a very... Japanese people are usually very practical. You know, it's the idea of, can Christianity provide me more success? Can it provide me what I need to live off of? And the answer is not always, not necessarily. Well, then what's the point in it? You know, it's one of those things of, can it give me the practical means of success that I require? Not necessarily. Well, then I don't have time for it. And I can't blame anyone for having that position. But I think it is a misunderstanding of what the gospel provides. The gospel does not ask, what is the practical, worldly success it can give you? What is the eternal promise it can give you? And I'm not here to preach to anybody here. I'm just explaining my position on this. So what I'm thinking I might end up doing is becoming a missionary to Japan or Korea. Maybe not China. That's a little iffy right now. But to Japan or Korea and share the gospel. Or, considering my current YouTube situation and how I'm doing there, maybe I'm meant to do online ministry. There are plenty of online ministries out there that I could do. Plenty of Christian YouTubers out there who do very well. So, I don't know. And going to seminary, getting more active in the church might help open my eyes to that. So that's just what I'm planning to do right now. It hasn't fully conquered my depression, but it gives me a hope. It gives me something new to think about and new to look forward to. So that is something for me to consider as I go forward. Wanted to share that with you guys because, you know, I just wanted to give you all the update. In any case, now let's move on to my Raven Rant. And I promise I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So today what I want to talk about is a little personal, but I promise I'll try to keep it as short as I can. So we're getting close to Easter. And something very interesting happened. In one of my recent videos, my extra credit response video on Lord of the Flies, which was a very well-received video, I had a commenter who wrote a very long list of grievances that he had against my video. He actually did it in a 2-part comment. And at first, most of his comments, while I disagreed with them, were intellectually sound, until he got to a point where he began to insult my faith, Christianity. And let's be clear, guys. I never make it a point of trying to shy away from that. I believe that you all who know me know that I'm a Christian, that I'm a believer in the faith. So that's not something that I'm ashamed of. It's not something I try to hide. So, and I also want you to know that I don't mind people asking me questions about it. That's not a problem. But here this guy is, and I'm not going to show what he said. You can go to the video and look in the comment sections yourself. You can go check it out. But he wrote that Christianity, he basically insulted it, wrote that it was bullshit and all that. You know, it just, you can go check it out yourself. Here's the thing. I responded to his point, trying to be as polite as I could about it. I simply pointed out, I think this shows your bias. And he responded back in about the way you'd expect, you know, very rude. But after that, I left him alone. I'm like, not worth dealing with anymore. Other people have been talking to him in the same comment thread, and he's been even more hostile towards Christianity with them. And it's gotten to a point where I feel like, man, you've gone from coming from an intellectual standing to sounding really juvenile and somewhat immature. And I would say that this surprises me, but it really doesn't, because this isn't the first guy to come after my faith on YouTube. Like, when I did my video about War Knights Christians, I had quite a few people come after me and say, you're looking at this from a Christian bias, you're a Christian perspectivist, and all that kind of stuff. And I want to just make this clear. It all comes to this point, especially as we get close to Easter. I want to talk about this. I am a firm believer in my faith, but I also believe firmly that we should respect other people first and foremost. Jesus Christ was asked, what's the most important commandment? And he said, the two most important commandments are love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. He also said to love your enemy. Do good to those who harm you. Be kind to those who ridicule you. He told us to love one another, which some would call weak. I think makes him stronger than anyone I've ever heard. It's not hard to love someone who loves you or is kind to you. It's much harder to love someone who would hurt you. But the benefits of that, he says, are waiting for you in heaven. And I think that's really cool. I think that's actually very uplifting. So I don't want to wish anyone ill, regardless of what they think, regardless of what they believe. But I want to address not necessarily the points, but the issue I take with that kind of behavior. Look, I've had conversations with people who don't believe what I do. I've talked to Muslims, I've talked to atheists, agnostics, Jews. I've talked to, he called himself a Zoroastrianist. I don't know if he really was, but he claimed to be. I've talked to Buddhists. I've talked to lots of people who don't believe what I believe. I've had wonderful, engaging conversations with people. I've had my eyes open to new ways of thinking and new aspects. And they've had their eyes open sometimes. I love having those kind of conversations. They're very enjoyable. And I want to tell you guys, if you don't believe what I believe or what they believe, the way to address them, I'm going to go ahead and say it, is not to insult them. Before you talk to someone who has a stance or belief that you don't agree with, consider this for a second. There is a person on the other side of the screen. Despite the belief they have, there is a person who believes it, a human being. And that human might not see their belief or their stance the same way you do. Which means when you go up to them and say, hey, you believe this? And if they say, why, yes, I do. I do ascribe to this belief. And you tell them in response, how can you possibly believe that? That's so stupid. That's idiot. That's complete bullshit. I can't believe you believe that. Watch how fast they walk away or get defensive. You will not convince anyone through that. You will not do anything other than make yourself look like a bully, a punk, and incredibly ignorant. You're not open to learning about someone else or understanding what they believe or who they are. You're only interested in making yourself look better and making them look worse, and that doesn't work for anybody. The correct way to do it is to ask questions. So if I say, hey, you believe this? And they say, why, yes, I do believe this. I would say, I've always heard that this is the case. This is actually how I started a conversation with a Buddhist. I said, oh, so you're a Buddhist? And he said, yes, I am. And I said, that's very interesting. Is it true that Buddhists believe in reincarnation? Because I'd heard that somewhere. And he sat down with me and he said, well, it's interesting you say that. And we had a very long, very fun conversation. And I got to talk to him about my beliefs. And he was very interested in what I had to say. It is through questioning, wanting to understand the other, that we got somewhere. We became pretty close friends for the time that we were in college together. We hung out sometimes. We picked on each other about what we believed sometimes. We had a good relationship. But it wasn't because, and here's the thing, I don't agree with everything he believed. I thought some of what he believed sounded outlandish. But at the same time, I respected his belief, and I was always open to discussing things with him. That is how you do it. And this extends not just to religion, but to anything. The reason I left my Discord group was because of trolling that went way too far. It was because I said, you know what, I think I enjoy Neo 2 more than I do most Dark Souls games, and I'm not interested in buying Elden Ring yet because I'm not sure I would enjoy something that everyone says is very similar to Dark Souls. And people told me that was stupid, that I had idiotic rationale and reasoning, and that games like Lego Star Wars was better than Neo. And I said, wow, okay, I have no reason to continue this conversation with you or to put up with it. Now, granted, they were trolling, but that's why I don't really like to troll that much. That's why I don't do it, because I feel like there's a line that you cross sometimes with trolling that shouldn't be crossed. Anyway, beside that point. So here's what I would say to the folks out there. All of you listening. I'm a Christian. I'm a firm believer. I'm excited for Easter, and I'm excited to have conversations with other people about what I believe. I'm still going to make videos where I talk about different faiths and cultures, including my own. You don't have to like them. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to think that what they have to say is relevant. And you can think that everything I believe is complete Iron Age bullshit. Feel free. But before you come harassing me or others about what we believe and feeling that entitles you to calling us hypocrites or fools or idiots or hateful, before you feel like you can do that, consider something for a moment. When you're about to harass me or others for our beliefs, be they Christian or what have you, ask yourself, are you harassing us because you want to help us understand something? Are you harassing us because you yourself want to better understand us? Or are you doing it to be hateful? Because if you're doing it to be hateful and cruel to the person on the other side of the screen, whether you're right or not, you are no better than what you claim to stand against. If you believe that Christians, Muslims, Jews, what have you, are evil or wicked or hateful or bigoted to some capacity, and you go after them and yell at them for being bigoted, hateful, or whatever to some capacity, you must next look at yourself in the mirror and yell the same insults, because you have become the very thing you criticize. You may not believe what we believe, but you act in the manner you hate. And that makes you pretty foolish. Now, I can say this, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Have Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, all these other religious groups, have they done bad things in the past? Certainly. Every group and ideology and government or what have you has done something wrong. We all have our skeletons in the closet. We can't deny that, and I'm never going to deny that. We've done bad things in the past. But I'm not interested in looking at the past and determining the validity or conscience or soul of a belief system. I'm interested in looking at the present. So if you decide, oh, well, Christianity's evil because of the Crusades, Christianity's evil because of witch hunts, Christianity's cruel because of this, I'm going to say, well, when did that happen, and who were the kind of people who did it, and what were their motives in doing it? Now let's look at today. Are they still doing the same thing? Or has that changed? That's what I would look at. That's the kind of conversation I'd have with you. But again, it's hardly relevant. At the end of the day, it's just a question. Do you want to better understand what I believe and what I think, or what others believe and they think? Or do you simply want to be hateful? And if all you want to be is hateful, then what makes you better than me? And I'm sure the argument some would say is, well, at least I'm not ignorant. Well, congratulations. I'm proud of you. You have achieved a level of enlightenment and knowledge greater than anyone around you. So sit high upon your throne above the rest of the world as you sit in splendor, basking in the glory of your own amazingness, while I spend time amongst my fellow man who love me despite my imperfections. I will forever be beneath you, but will forever be surrounded by friends. You will sit alone upon a high horse built upon your own superiority complex. A lonely existence, but an existence I'm sure you're proud of. And is that me being hateful? No. It's stating a point of fact. I've seen way too many people who felt that they were better than everyone else simply because they thought differently, because they believed something differently. At the end of the day, I'd much rather be around people and learn more about them and hope that they would have enough interest to learn about me. Isn't that what we call diversity? Isn't that what we call inclusivity? Isn't that what we call acceptance, coexistence, fellowship? Things that my God actually supports, wanted? Because the Jesus I read about engaged with sinners, ate with tax collectors, prayed for prostitutes, cleaned the feet of fishermen. He was a man who invited the riffraff of the world to walk with him, dine with him, listen to him. He engaged with people different than himself, encouraged us in his final commission to go out and make disciples of all nations, not just the people he deemed worthy. That's the kind of God I worship. That's the kind of God I believe in. And if you don't want to believe in that kind of God, so be it. I'm not going to force it on you. It's not my goal. It's not what I want. I would hope you'd want to just talk to me about it. I wouldn't mind having a civil conversation. I love those. But if you're just coming to harass me or my friends or constituents or fans because of what they believe or don't believe, I'm sorry, that doesn't make us the fool. But I'll let you do the rest of that math. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll continue to walk by faith and by light. I hope you will as well. And I'll see you in my next video. Take care.